Okay, good evening and welcome to JRF RIA. I am going to discuss about Aristotle, okay, in this class. Now, Aristotle was actually the most brilliant student of Plato's academy, as you know, and he has contributed in every field, okay, be it literary criticism, philosophy, and logic, rhetoric, reasoning, everything. Okay, now you know that to understand any kind of literary figure, we must understand the background. Okay, the background of his life, okay, and how he got inspired, if he got inspired from any writer or not, or what was his life. And by this we can also understand his work. Okay, and it's not that only literary critics we must understand their background, but in case of dramatist, poet, writer, every literary figures, if we understand, if we try to understand, then I think we should also know little bit of his life and his journey of life, right? So the first thing, that Aristotle was born in 384 BC, and he was born in Macedonia of Greece, right? Now, as Plato has also his own school like academy, Aristotle also established his own school, and that was called as Lyceum, Lyseum, Lyceum. Okay, and that was famous for peripatetic, because he used to teach students by walking, not by sitting in one place in a chair or in a bench. Rather, he used to teach students by walking only. Okay, so that were all simple things about his own life. Now, he was a teacher of rhetoric, philosophy, and also logic. Okay, these three he used to teach in Athens. Now, later, the second part, that where we will discuss about his concept, whatever concept he has given in his books. And he has given one concept that is known as aesthetic. Now, what is aesthetic? Aesthetic means when we get the pleasure, okay, that is totally different from any other pleasure. For example, like I am a very I'm very bad painter. Okay, I'm not that much good in painting, but if you ask me to paint any picture, then I might be ending painting a very bad picture where you cannot find that much pleasure, you cannot find that much happiness. But if I show you a picture or a painting of Picasso, okay, Picasso you must have heard, and his work like the blue guitar, so what will you understand? You will get a pleasure. Okay, and that pleasure can only be given by an art. So Aristotle is saying that if the art is giving a pleasure, so that is aesthetic pleasure. Okay, now the second concept that he has given is rhetoric. If we you must have seen it in the field of politics, rather, for example, like you have seen that politicians, they use rhetoric to give much more attraction to their speech. And like he has given three division of rhetoric, that is logos, ethos, and pathos. Logos means logic. Okay, your speech should be logical. And second is pathos. Pathos means your speech should be connected with passion, some emotion. And the third thing is ethos. Ethos means ethics. Okay, that by your speech one person have to understand that, okay, you are a good character, okay, you are a good person. So that is kind of ethics or ethos. Now he has also given some theories. Okay, as you know that Aristotle is famous for his contribution that basically lies in the world of logic, right? And we also study them in our paper 1, that is logical reasoning, where we come to know about western logic and syllogism. These are all the logical concepts that we are getting from our paper 1 logical reasoning unit, right? Now here he said that the logic has three parts. One is premise 1, then premise 2, or conclusion, right? Or major premise, minor premise, and that comes up with a conclusion. Now there is a classical example of this logic, that is uh, all men are mortal, and Socrates is also a man, so Socrates is mortal. Now coming to his another concept, another theory, and that is mean. The theory of mean that we generally know as the average, so that is also given by Aristotle. Now some views on poetry that he has given, and that was totally of contrast with his teacher Plato. Aristotle found some positive function on poetry in the field of literature. He disputed his teacher Plato in case of poetry. So you can also make some points if you want. Okay. So the first point is that Plato actually told that music is better than poetry, right? Because music can give us pleasure, and music has its own rhythm, right? It has own rhythm with which we can get a pleasure. Aristotle says that then poetry is also better than music. If music can give a pleasure, poetry can also give a pleasure, and poetry has also a rhythm, right? So that's why we get the happiness while we read a poetry, or we get the pleasure when we recite a poem, right? So that's the thing that Aristotle is saying. Now the second point is that Plato said that art is just a mere imitation. Okay, it gives us no knowledge, it is only a mere imitation. But Aristotle told that no, if art is an imitation, then it is a creative imitation, right? When we see an art and we get mesmerized by seeing it, we feel that we say now that, oh my god, how a creative work is it, how creative art it is. So everybody cannot become an artist, right, until he has some creative knowledge. So that is exactly Aristotle is pointing here. Now Plato told that art is useless, it gives only lack of knowledge, nothing else, right? But Aristotle said that no, if art is useless, if imitation means art, then it is also natural. Because see, when we are child, we learn many things by copying others, right? We learn many things by copying our parents, by copying our elders, okay? And we also learn many things. Also Aristotle given a view on poetry that poetry is better than even history, because history gives us fact, only the fact, okay? It's telling us about only the past, what has already happened. But poetry is a philosophy that only gives us the knowledge of future. Whatever it will be happened in future, we come to know after reading a poetry. So that is exactly Aristotle is telling in his criticism. Now the next part that we will come with is his book, and that is Poetics, right? So Aristotle is saying, Aristotle has also given a book that is known as Poetics. You must have known that. So Poetic, is consist of many parts or many units, and among them were 26 chapters. Though the work is, it is an incomplete work. Now, the topics that the book covers are, he has given the definition of poetry and also the classification of poetry and the definition of tragedy and the the more about tragedy. And the third thing that he has also given differences of epic and tragedy, and that is all about his book Poetic. Okay. Now, he has also given a concept about imitation. Okay, as you know that the contemporary post-colonial critic Humike Bhabha also has given a concept of a theory about imitation. Okay, and that he is calling as mimicry, because he says that we only copy somebody who is superior than us. Okay, that's why we copied the Britishers, and from the Babu culture is also coming, right? But here Aristotle has given something about imitation. He has given a different idea. How? Now he says that we imitate only in two ways. One is when we imitate God, that's mean the superior, and one when we imitate the inferior, that's mean the common men or the men. Okay, basically. So when we copy the god and goddesses, we create works like tragedy and epic. Okay, and that's why you have the example like Milton's Paradise Lost, right? We see that all the figures are gods and goddesses. So Milton also has imitated them, right? Whereas when we imitate the inferior persons, okay, than us, so we create at that time comedy and satire, right? Now coming to his work Poetics, where he told about the tragedy. Now, what is tragedy according to Aristotle? Serious, gravity, language, action with some harmony, rhythm is staged or performed by an actor or by some actors, that is known as tragedy. Okay, and he has also given some common traits that should have been there for a tragedy. For example, he told that there should be 6 characteristics of a tragedy. What are those characteristics? Number 1 is plot, then character, spectacle, thought, and song, and finally diction, right? These 6 things are essential for a tragedy. Now he has also you know um, further divided all the characteristics of tragedy, and first comes plot. Now what is said about plot? Plot is actually plot should have some important qualities. Okay, that's are these all qualities are indispensable, without which a tragedy cannot be created, right? So what are all those things? Number 1 is that it should follow the you know the proper beginning, middle and end. Okay, this one should be at the very first point of a list of a tragedy, right? And the second thing that he said is important for a tragedy is the unities. You know that what are those unities, right? There are 3 unities. One is unity of time, then unity of place, and unity of action. Now what is unity of place? Aristotle says that when the play is staged in any country or in any place, then it should be also end in that place. But as we see in the works of Shakespeare, who has totally changed the conventional themes and laws of drama, right? That's why we remember Shakespeare whenever we talk about dramas, right? But Aristotle said that if first scene is taken in place like Delhi, then the second scene should not be taken in place like London. If the first scene is presented in London, then the second scene also be staged in London only. Now the second is unity of time. Now Aristotle said that the time bound should be only for 3 hours, okay, not more than that, not less than that. Now the third thing is that unit of action. Aristotle said that there should be a logical reasoning, okay, with all the incidents that are happening in a tragedy, and that's why we are getting all the tragedies like Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, right? And he also says that the tragedy should not have any subplot, but the greatest, like, Shakespeare has totally changed this law, because we see the tragedy like King Lear, where we get two plots. One is main plot and subplot is also there. The main plot is that king and his three daughters, whereas the subplot is Gloucester. Okay, he was a friend of the king and he had also two sons, and that is a subplot. But if the tragedy has also a subplot and a main plot, but still we are getting the pleasure, the aesthetic pleasure, right? So Shakespeare has changed this law. Okay, so that is all about the plot. Okay, and that is being discussed by Aristotle here. So yeah, that was my class only, and the other part of Aristotle I will cover in my next class. So if you really like that class, then you can continue this class, and if you want you can ask me any question if you have. Okay, that was my class. Okay, so I think yeah, we should end the class, and thank you for this patience with which you have joined the class. Okay, and bye bye, take care, work hard, you will definitely get JRF. Bye bye.